So we have this little baby crow that I found, and I'm gonna be preserving him with formalin. And the backstory on this guy, basically, I found him on my way out from work. We can take this off for now. I found him on my way out from work, and I picked him up because I feel like, you know, maybe he deserved to have a little chance. I don't think he could fly yet. What I think happened was that he might have he might have fallen out of his nest, or maybe he was pushed out because he doesn't look old enough to fly, and he also doesn't have enough feathers. Possibly could have also been the runt of his litter, or he was attacked. But either way, is little. I can't actually tell if it's a male or a female, but I want to try and make this wet specimen. And before we start, I have a list of supplies that you need to get to properly preserve this guy. And like, contrary to other people just saying just like stick it in a jar and put alcohol in it, you can't really do that. Because it won't preserve properly, or like an animal like this with like feathers and a little bit larger body, it's not going to preserve right. Basically, like he'll rot if you just put him in like that. So what I have to preserve him properly is the 10% neutral buffered formalin, which is basically a watered down version of formaldehyde. So before you start, you're gonna need your specimen, a jar that's a little bit bigger than the creature. This one's about 42 ounces. Formalin, which is a fixative. You need a respirator mask. I have an N95. I don't have a respirator because it's kind of hard to find right now due to COVID. You need some goggles. You don't want any of this stuff to splash in your eyes. This is also a carcinogen, and it shouldn't be ingested or inhaled. It's formaldehyde, so a respirator would be the best thing. But I actually have an air filter right now, and I have a fan going, and you want your windows open for this too. I said eye goggles already for any of the splashing. I had some dish soap, so I actually washed him before. I had him frozen for like about a month before I got him. I got him in this little quart container that I'd gotten from work, and he was frozen and double bagged so he wouldn't get freezer burn. A puppy pad just in case anything leaks, because I will be putting him on here. You need a clean single-use hypodermic needle. This is a 22 gauge. You need gloves for handling the little creature. And let's see, and I think that's about it. Actually, a little extra ones is I have a funnel because I can be a little bit messy. So I just want to make sure that I pour the formalin in without making as much of a mess. And then I have a little dish to pour some of the formalin in when we inject him. So I'm gonna set this aside down here. And the first thing I did was I pulled him out of the freezer, and I took him out maybe an hour or two and let him actually thaw completely out. You can tell like he's not, his body isn't rigid anymore. It's still like things like this, like the claws and everything aren't, they're not really gonna be moving back to normal. They a little bit of the like a rigor mortis set in. But I might be able to kind of reposition on his claws just a little bit. I'm just reading my notes. So I washed him already, and the reason you want to wash him is you want to try to remove any like oil that the feathers might have built up, any dirt or blood. And basically, like, the reason you want to do this is because once you put him in the formalin or in your other or your final solution, which would be our 70% alcohol, it can, all the extra liquids or oils and stuff can cloud up your final jar, and you don't want that in your final result. So After that, what I want to do is put him in the jar, or I'm not sure if it's a him actually, but I'm calling it a him. So I want to put him in the jar, and I want to position him. And I want, first of all, I want to see like if he's gonna fit in the jar. I'm gonna put my mask on for this, but so he does fit in the jar. He's just tall enough. And I'm gonna move around just a little bit. I don't need this. So basically I'm trying to position him in the final way that I want him to stay, because once I inject him with this formalin, his body is not going to be able to move afterwards. So whatever way that I pose this little crow, he's going to stay. And I think that would be cute. Yeah, you can see he wasn't doing too well. But I think that'll work. So he goes, out he goes. And I'm gonna very carefully put my mask back on. I'm actually wearing two masks. I have one 3-layer, and this is the N95. So I'm going to open up this needle. Set up my needle and open up the formalin. I got all of these supplies on Amazon. The formalin, when shipping was involved, it ended up being, I have the receipt right here, it ended up being $30.17. And the needles came in a pack. I tried to get a smallest pack because I probably won't be doing this very often. But they came in a pack of like 20, and let me check the receipt. And these were, yeah, a pack of 20 for $7. So that can be used in case another preserving thing comes. So formalin is open. I'm gonna pour a little bit into this dish. I can already kind of smell it through even through the mask. And what I want to do, I'm gonna look away for squeamish. Is fill this up, and we are going to try to inject all the cavities of this bird. When he's frozen, or when he died, he starts to desiccate a little bit. He starts to dry up. So when I start injecting him, he's going to be plumping up a little bit, and I want to try to especially get all the major organs. Once I start injecting him, like I want to get here, he's going to start to plump up a little bit and look a little bit more like when he was alive. And that's what you want, essentially. I'm going to get all the pieces, the legs. You can tell he's starting to plump up a little bit. The wings, the neck, especially. I get a little bit more. That one took almost a full one. I know that with smaller creatures, like if you do smaller creatures like bugs, here I'm opening his wings. Smaller creatures like bugs, you might not have to inject so much. Or even inject with formalin at all, like small tiny bugs, like maybe like a couple millimeters. You can just put the formalin straight in. But guys like this, you definitely want to inject. So I'm going into his rib cage, getting into his belly. Wearables. Poor little guy. It kind of looks like, you know what? It kind of looks like his neck was broken and that's how he died. Because when I came along after work, he was just kind of laying there, and I kind of even, I poked him just to make sure like he wasn't still alive. And there was already some flies getting on him. And I called security to see if they would come and grab him, but they were basically like, yeah, just leave him there. We'll go get him later. And I was standing there for like 10 minutes, and nobody was coming to get him. So I felt really bad, and I was like, you know what? I'm kind of a creepy person. Like, I've always wanted to do these things. Like, I think I can figure it out. So I basically did like as much research as I could. You can tell, like, I think we're already getting our to our capacity, because I'm filling them up right here, and I can see that some of the formalin is starting to come out. I might do a few more little spots, like right here, and get a little life in these little tiny claws. But I think after that we're almost done. It's a lot faster than I thought. Yeah, this is why you want the little puppy pad. Oh, I don't think I mentioned this before, but I put down a drop cloth as well. This is my new kitchen cart, so I don't want stuff to get on it, especially formalin. And after all this is done, the cleanup should be pretty easy. Like, I should just be able to like wrap all of this up and take it straight out to the garbage. All right, buddy. These claws do not want to work with me. Oh, I felt that. I got a little jumpy because he moved. Hey, buddy. Still trying to come alive. It's okay. So this, I think this way it kind of gives him a second life, and this guy can always be remembered. I'm pretty sure it's a guy. I actually don't see. You can't tell on its anatomy if it was a boy or a girl. So yeah, and then even into the eyeballs you want to inject. This is like the grossest part. Okay. Sorry, buddy. I'm gonna keep you alive forever, in a way. And then into the brain. So I'm gonna go straight up this way. So, I don't know if you can tell, but he looks a little more plump. And I'm pretty much done. I'm just filling in any last little spots that I noticed that, like, since it's a bird, you know, it has, like, the wings. And it's going to be even. I'll be able to use this formalin when I fill up the jar. And I'm hoping that this is going to be enough formalin, because this is 32 ounces, this is a little bit like 40. But once I put him in there, he'll displace a little bit. Yeah. Oh, I got the back a little bit. Just getting the back of the spine. Yeah, he was little. You can tell he's bony too. Poor little fella. Or girl. We don't know. So we're almost done here injecting, and I'm about to put them in the jar. Okay. We are definitely done. Going in there. So this guy is all done. And so remember how we decided we wanted to pose him? Because the formalin's going to basically set him up, and once I pose him, he's not going to be able to be moved. So I'm going to do any last little adjustments. Maybe move the wings around a little bit. I want it. Just like that. And I'm going to take a little something because I want to move the legs apart. Back of the spoon. I want to move the legs apart a little bit. I wasn't planning on using the back of the spoon, but it is what it is. Alright, I'll get that all cleaned up. So I think that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to fill this up at an angle. That. Fill this guy up. Now with the formalin, he's not going to stay in the formalin permanently. You want it to stay in the formalin for about like 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks tops for this size. If he was smaller, I'd have him in for about a week. If he was any larger, I would have it in for maybe a month or 2 months even. But the larger the animal, the longer you want it to stay. Okay, so that almost covered it. It should be all right. Oh, it kind of looks like he's in flight. When they start to float like this, it shouldn't be floating too much. I've heard you can put like rocks or something or tie it down a little bit to fix it. We might do that. So, but for now, he's pretty much filled in there. And I'm going to do some last moment adjustments. Definitely have to tie this little guy down or put like a rock or something. You're gonna notice right away that the formalin starts getting clouded. Pulls this tight. And there he is. I know I could probably have done a smaller dog, but I think this is okay for now. I can always transfer him. So there he is. That's the process of making a wet specimen. And that's a little baby crow. A few other notes that I wanted to say is if you leave this guy in the formalin for too long, the reason you want to leave it in this formalin permanently, after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we're going to switch it to 70% alcohol. And the reason why we don't want to, I'm going to take this down. The reason we don't want to leave it in the formalin for that long is because it will start to actually just break down the animal and dissolve it, and it'll lose its color, and we don't want that. And then with a formalin, we can actually reuse this in here, and I'll save this so I can reuse this for if I have another specimen happen along my way. But when you inject a creature, like you want to use fresh formalin. And I think that's pretty much it. So if you want to do something like this, just make sure you get all your proper protective gear and make sure you're in a well-ventilated area, and have a good time preserving and being kind of creepy and morbid. Thanks.